Joined so far. I am Adeyeye Taiwo. I'm the host of a podcast program on YouTube called the Debo Taiwo Show. But today we are discussing Nigeria 2027 elections. And I've titled this, are we between the devil and the deep blue sea, or is there light at the end of the tunnel? And as always, I am joined by a political scientist, a political analyst, social commentator, big social influencer. I've welcomed, first of all, Kayode Badmus. You're welcome again to this episode, Kayode.
Thank you for having me once again, Debo.
Yeah.
Nice to be here again.
Thank you. And also joining me today is a social commentator, a brand executive by career path, but an highly cerebral guy, in person of Ben Iyoha. Ben, you're welcome to this episode of the Debo Taiwo Talk Show.
Thank you, Debo. It's an honor.
Yeah, so you want your camera on your TikTok. Thank you, sir. And then shortly we'll be welcoming Banji Adeyeye, Barrister Banji Adeyeye, who at the moment has technical issues. Okay, so let's get going with the very first question for today. Now, we're getting into the 2027 era for elections. And as we are nearing into elections, of course, the ruling party and its presidential candidates, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is willing to vie for office. But, with consistent issues around inflation, insecurity not being the greatest, lack of investments coming into the country, does the APC have a moral, not a moral standing, but do they have anything appealing to sell to Nigerians to get people to vote for them? Let me throw that question first to Kayode Badmus.
It's a very tricky one there, because the truth is, it's broader than I'm trying to narrow into. The APC is a party that was formed about 12 years ago, and APC is quite different from the person of the president. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a different person. The APC is an entity. Yeah, it represents the APC and everything, but in all ramifications, I wouldn't compare a Tinubu with a Buhari that was president for 8 years. So technically, I would say, well, Tinubu appears to be on the right track, and which in quote and unquote, APC appears to be on the right path. Someone might want to say, oh, APC has been in government for 10, 12 years, but it's different. That was why I categorically said, now APC in this case now comes from two different aspects, the Buhari era and the Tinubu era. And I tell people, for instance, I'll use an analogy, which I use all the time. APC is represented by a broom. That's their kind of icon. And I would say the broom, as Nigerians, as Africans, the broom you use in sweeping your bathroom, you won't use the same broom to sweep your sitting room, your living room. So a Buhari and a Tinubu are two different people. So let's say Tinubu is practically putting the APC back on track. However, the reality is things are difficult. The average man on the street of Nigeria will say things are expensive, things are this and that. But over the years, in the last 15, 18 years, what we've been doing in Nigeria has been more like a kind of palliative measure. We've been having cosmetic solutions rather than solve the problems that are inherent in Nigeria, the things that are actually causing these problems. We just try to, save it from, the surface, which brings back things like the subsidy issue, things like I remember when Dora Kiri started a rebranding project brand Nigeria and everything. And I remember then I also said something. Nigeria, I used the analogy of a car. Now, a beaten down Beetle car whose engine was bad, the tires were gone, and then what we're doing was paint the vehicle and tell people, come and see our new car. So that was what the Yadra, Buhari, and in quotes, Jonathan era tried to do.
Thank you for your analysis. Great analysis as always. But I'm very sure a lot of people will have a very different opinion compared to what you've said. And then question would be to Ben Iyoha. Ben, Kayode has tried to say APC want to distinguish the Buhari government from the Tinubu government, and Tinubu is trying to put Nigeria back on the right track. That is definitely arguable. What are your thoughts on what Badmus has said directly? And if Tinubu hasn't done well enough to put Nigeria on the right track, do we have any hope in the political potential candidates that we have, or aspirants that we have at the moment?
Debo, and I don't know if I can be heard on the Zoom though, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so first and foremost, you spoke about, can Tinubu bring Nigeria back on track? Now, and I like how Kayode had been able to put it. I like the confusion I heard from his voice. It was dilly-dallying, even Tinubu himself had said it, that himself and Buhari are from the same party, and it was going to continue from where Buhari had stopped. And perhaps that is what he has been doing. Now, if you want to bring a country back on track, or you really want to change a country for the better, there are strategic moves that you need to take. There are stories of other countries out there that we could pick from on how they reformed their country and how they brought those countries to where they are today. An example is Singapore. Singapore today has the best passport in the world. Not even the US, not even the UK, not France, not Switzerland. Singapore has the best passport in the world. And the reason why they have that passport, we all know why. The stories are out there. We can go and Google the man who started the revolution that brought Singapore to where it is today. Now, Singapore didn't get there by fluke. Nigerians are now appreciating Rwanda. And the guy who leads Rwanda today made too many changes, too many sacrifices, people that needed to be swept up. But look, let's now bring it back to the Tinubu administration. Look at the guys that he has in his government. Look at the actions that they take. Look at the system that they run. Even himself, for a country that is experiencing the kind of situation that Nigeria is in today, you would think that he wants to run a lean government, he wants to run a very open government, but that is not what we see. What we see is contracts by friends and cronies, outright actions, constitutional aberrations, and you even to the legislative system of government, everything is currently in comatose. You see a government that awards a contract for a major road that runs into trillions, and there was no public bidding. The likes of Obasanjo came with the public, I think it's Bureau of Public Enterprise, where everything that has to do with the government should pass through such a bureau and ensure there's transparency and merit. For some of us who live out of the US, out of Nigeria, we ask ourselves questions. I ask myself every time, why is the US, UK, France, Canada, and all these countries, why are they doing better? It's because these guys practice a merit-based system. You and I know that you cannot walk up to the DMV, or I don't know what it's called in Canada or in the UK, where you get your driver's license, and just try to cut corners to get things done. But the system that we have back in Nigeria is such that everybody is cutting corners. And the man who calls himself the commander-in-chief of the armed forces is the grand master of cutting corners, the grand master of giving out bribes, locking down people, using proxies to... I myself, speaking to you, I've been a victim of Tinubu like twice. First time, I've always said this in every forum and every opportunity I've had to say, the first time as a student of Lagos State University, when he was governor, increased the tuition, and the student did not have the right to protest or even speak. All he did was to send the police to shoot down students. On that day, on the protest ground, we lost 5 students in Lasu. The guy by my side at Franklin's fell, and we took him to that hospital at Franklin's. So the other time, during the last election, I was attacked and almost killed. I survived. So such a fellow or such an individual, can such an individual create any change that looks like what Singapore experienced? So that's the situation. That is where we are. I do not think there's any change in sight. I do not think anything good is coming in sight as far as this administration is. What they are currently doing is just cosmetic governance. There's no real development. There's no change. Because if you really want to change a country, it starts from stripping the country of every of the nuances that turns around development for that country. And all that starts from a pure anti-corruption drive. You yourself, they say he who comes with equity must come with clear. You yourself must be clean to clean the country. An unclean fellow cannot clean Nigeria. And that's what it is. Look at the streets. Look at the Agberoism that he brought. Just give me some seconds to round up. Look at the Agberoism that he introduced to the Nigerian entity that has now spread across every state and every corner of Nigeria. Look at that system. Look at the people who benefit, people that do not produce anything, that add no value to the society. Imagine in Canada or UK, US, and all these countries, they create a system where people just harass you, collect money for nothing, and those monies don't go into any proper pipeline. And you people praise and adulate such a person. I'm sorry. I do not feel like there's anything good coming up from Tinubu. There will never be, and there's never been. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your submission. All right. So yeah, that's your point of view, Ben Iyoha. I mean, leaning on to what you're saying in summary is, well, this present government hasn't done anything reasonable to vie for a second term. Before I believe Banji is on here. BJ. BJ. This is for you though. What is your opinion about 2027 elections? So I'm just asking everyone like level-broaded questions for now. Do you think this government deserves a second term?
Well, it's a bit how do I put it? It's quite dicey. Let me pick it up first from where Kayode Badmus, left it. The honest truth about it is, as citizens of the country, we're not so impressed at the progress that has been made by the current government. But one thing that I do not take for granted is I always like to look at things comparatively. We're coming from the position of rot, of a lot of government inefficiency, a lot of wastage, a lot of problems over time. And what you won't be able to fix some of these issues overnight. Is what I think that is the challenge of this current government. Yes, there are a lot of things that they could do better at. I think that whilst the economy is in this shape that it is, there's a lot of lavishness going on. There's a lot of flamboyancy with people in power, people in government, or people that are associated with government. So based on that, it's like a 50-50 thing. I think this government has a chance of returning to office, not necessarily on the strength of its performance, that is what is visible to the average Nigerian. But however, because of the setup of the political climate that we have, like I've said before now, and I will still maintain, we do not have an opposition in this country. So on that basis, it seems that the road may be a little bit clearer for the current president to return to office.
Okay. Let me switch it back to Badmus now, Kayode Badmus, and talking about opposition, or specifying on opposition. People will say there's no opposition in the country right now, but the opposition people are saying, well, it's not a party with the ruling party, it's Nigerians and the ruling party. Kayode Badmus, with the options that we have in Peter Obi and Kwankwaso alliance specifically, and the rest of other options that we're looking at. I hear Sheyi Makinde declared intention to run yesterday. Of course, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is the front runner for ADC, Rotimi Amechi, and the rest of them. What do you think stands the best chance to compete favorably with the current government? And do they have a chance, in your opinion?